business, and I can't actually find a good product to sell.
Okay.
The product that I actually chosen was jewellery, and I actually tried to sell jewellery, but it's not actually working out. So can you give me some ideas?
Okay. Well, thanks for the call and thanks for the question. We'll just pass that question on to Richard.
Okay.
What do you think? She's tried the product and it's not moving.
Right. So the question that immediately comes to my mind is it that particular product or range of products that you were offering that's the problem, or is it that in the area that you're marketing or the method you're using for marketing, jewellery per se is not an attractive proposition to the target? So it comes back to, I'm afraid, doing some market research or further market research and talking to your target customers as much as you can to find out what they would like. Are they interested in jewellery? If so, what types of jewellery? What sort of considerations do they have? Do they want particular pieces, novel pieces or traditional pieces? And I could go on. It's that sort of question that you're looking to get as much information as possible so that you can then relate to the jewellery range or the jewellery items that you have been offering and ask yourself the question, is this the right thing for the customers who are looking for other things?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment about that, because I actually did an exhibition, or actually a market stand, and I had jewellery items. Now, they didn't move, but it did attract a lot of women to the stand, and they did look at the product. But as soon as I told them about the price, they just backed away.
Okay.
They wanted to negotiate down to like £1 or £2 an item or something like that. So sometimes there is a demand, but the consumer or the customer is not prepared to pay the price. They want to pay a lower price. So
but as a test case, in that scenario, as a test case, you kind of identified where the problem might have been. It's the pricing. So maybe if you increase your quantities, benefited from the economies of scale, and brought your cost down so that you can pass on that reduction to the end user, you could be in the money. But then again, as the caller has talked about, you know, it all goes down to how much in-depth and detailed their market research are. Because, you know, if she's identified a market but it's not worked out, maybe she needs to go back and do a bit more research, as Richard said, and be more detailed with the research. You know, is it the trends?
Yes,
is maybe your jewelry, you know, because fashion trends within accessories generally and jewelry specifically tend to come in. You know, they become vogue. All of a sudden, it goes out of fashion seasonally because your high street brands. Your high street brands, your Topmans or your other jewelry stores who might provide other accessories, not necessarily jewelries, the trend changes very regularly, and same applies to the jewelry market.
Well, you know a lot because you worked in the textile business. So you
yes, obviously in textiles again, you know, I mean, I see it all as accessories, be it your wristwatches or your medium to low end wristwatches, your jewelry, your accessories, textiles, high street products, general high street products, they're very seasonal, they're very season oriented. So you need to keep going back to the drawing board, finding out what's hip now, what the youngsters want, what your target market is going after, and then you need to specifically supply that product. It cannot happen that you think that this product is good because it suits your taste, and you would assume that people out there will buy it. That's not necessarily going to happen. No. Your market research has to be based on the end user, the customer or the consumer, as Richard mentioned earlier, and what their needs are, what their specific needs are, and then you have to supply that. So maybe that's something you could look at, that, you know, go back to the drawing board and find out what the end user is currently, the current vogue, the current trend is, and supply, and maybe use a bit of initiative and look further down, 6 months down, 12 months down, possibly 18 months down, what might be more hip. Because whatever is hip in the high-end market now, your very high-end jewelry suppliers, it will slow down. China will eventually start making that. Emerging markets will eventually start copying that. And then that will come onto your high street maybe 12 months down the road. So that's what you have to look at. But again, you have to use your initiative. You have to use a bit of vision. For young entrepreneurs out there, using your vision is absolutely essential.
Just trust your gut feeling as well.
So you've got to find the balance.
So getting back to what Richard was covering, the 5 C's, I think she needs to identify the cost and the market condition. So you're gonna cover those two points.
Yes, so the costs are very much there, because it could be that the price, as you say, is the issue. So costs, you need to consider your costs in the full sense. not only your overhead costs, those are the sort of day-to-day things like insurances, the monies that you need to draw out of the business for yourself, advertising, etc., those sort of day-to-day stuff. But also, if you're buying a product or bringing in freelancers to work for you if you provide a service, then the cost of the raw materials or the freelancers that you're working with. And it's wider than just money. There's another implication here, and that is the reliability. You know, what would happen if suddenly your supplier, let's say you're selling a product, and what if your supplier of the key raw material element was not able to deliver? Have you worked out what the alternative supply chain might be, what the cost implications are? Have you got a contingency plan in place? Because if not, this could mean that you cannot complete an order, and your business could conceivably fail, worst case scenario perhaps, but certainly there would be a disruption. And that links on very nicely, I know we're talking costs, but it links on very nicely to the wider contingency plans and the what-if scenario, which covers every multitude that you can think of in terms of a business. But we saw a classic example of an unexpected with the Icelandic volcano and the impact that that had on international flights. And as a result of that, certain products, particularly fresh products, weren't coming into the European countries and such that were affected by this. So costs, much wider issues. Supplier chain, very key. Contingency plans, very key.
So just picking up on what Richard said, very important for small businesses, because I mean, if you're going into a good rather than a service, then your supply chain becomes a very essential component, because the reliability of your supply chain will have a very direct impact on the quality of the good or service you're providing.
Yes.
So your supply chain is a very, very essential component.
So it really comes down to not putting your eggs in one basket, basically. So you have to have a contingency plan, have alternative suppliers ready, just in case.
Yes. I'd be careful about the eggs in one basket aspect, because you've got a dilemma. If you spread your orders around the place, you won't get the advantage of larger order values in terms of getting a lower unit price. But on the other side of the coin, if you do that, you're reducing the risk of one supplier causing a problem, a big problem for you. So it's a business decision, I'm afraid, as they say, sitting on the fence.
Depends on the nature of the business.
It depends on the nature of the business.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
So now getting back to the condition, that was the last C, isn't it?
Yes,
the last C.
Conditions. This is where your secondary research, going through the likes of the British Library and such, newspapers, magazines, etc., can come to good effect. What you're looking to do, starting off with the industry you're operating in, is to identify whether it's a growing industry, a declining industry, or a static one. What are the prospects? Are they good, bad, or ugly? You need to know this. If they're not very good, should you be launching a new business in that industry? Perhaps you should be going elsewhere. Again, it's just one part of market research. Then you've got wider implications. You've got what I call PESTLE, which your viewers may be familiar with. Each letter stands for something. P for political, E for economic, S for sociological, or if you wish, call it fashion, T for technological, and E for environmental. We all know with computers and mobile phones and such like how the technology moves on so quickly, and if you're not careful, that impact on your business could result in you having stock that you can't dispose of because it's out of date, it's yesterday's stuff.
Just picking on what your pastel analysis, as they say. Pastel is a very basic component of market research. Any business, any size, you know. This is a very basic analysis. It's amazing that Richard's mentioned this, because a business needs to know the broader paradigms. The broader environment it's dealing with, the political issues. If you're dealing with emerging markets, political issues are a big factor. You know, your economic issues, the current economic climate, the recessionary environment around you. You know, a lot of businesses, say the high street stores, are not in the money anymore. You know, the low end stores are. So you know, it helps you decipher the markets to go to, the clientele you need to go after.
We'll just continue in a second. We'll take a few callers and we'll carry on, because like Richard was saying, the growing number and growing number of callers waiting. So, assalamu alaikum, caller.
Wa
alaikum salam. Have you got a call? Have you got a question for us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just trying to find out. I want to go into bringing African food
Okay.
So I know that there's prospects in that kind of business, but I'm confused. I don't know much about it. Can you just put me through, maybe to tell me some of the things that one can, maybe if one wants to do such business, how one can make it move? I know nothing about it, but I know that it's a nice business that one can go into, and I'm young. I want to